So you know how those lids are, because this is, well, I'm just gonna speak, okay? So this is it. So you know how those lids on those Starbucks cups, they're white, right? And so if you wear lipstick, they get all over the lid. And so then I find myself in meetings if I'm the only woman, and that's kind of, and so I keep taking the lid off and having my cup out so that I don't have that big lipstick mark on the lid. So I said, can we do something about the color of the lid?
The Kamala Harris campaign continues to collapse, and it's so bad, as a matter of fact, that even the mainstream media pollsters have to come out and admit that Donald Trump is winning. Now, on this channel, we basically have two different concepts going on about the Kamala Harris campaign. First is that I don't believe all of these leftist mainstream media polls that Kamala Harris went from being less popular than Joe Biden to now being more popular than Joe Biden, and so much so that she was actually beating Donald Trump in the head-to-head matchup. And second is that Kamala Harris is an unknown quantity to a large swath of the American people who don't actually know what she stands for. And as that is being revealed, she becomes even less and less popular, which of course gives rise to all of these polls being forced to reveal the actual truth as we get closer and closer to the election day. So this is where I want to start. That whole idea that yes, Kamala Harris is an unknown quantity and people are figuring out what she really stands for. So let's get into this clip featuring Bernie Sanders.
You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people, despite spending twice as much per capita. That is why I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another approach toward moving toward universal health care. But again, I think on issues like expanding Medicare, by expanding Social Security and lifting the cap on taxable income that the rich put in so we can raise Social Security benefits, the need to raise the minimum wage from a starvation 7.25 minimum wage to a living wage. I think if you campaign on those issues, raising taxes on billionaires, you know what, she's going to win, and I think she could win big.
Well, let me just ask you then, big picture, do you still consider Vice President Kamala Harris to be progressive, Senator?
I do.
So Kamala Harris, who's famously said that her values have not changed, even though all of her political opinions have, is now being revealed for what she is. And even Bernie Sanders has to admit, yeah, she's being pragmatic. She's trying to run as something else, and she's still a progressive. And this is what the public is being exposed to. The myriad of quotes and videos of all of her extreme leftist stances that honestly do not fly with the general American people, right? We don't want any of this garbage in our lives. And that is what, of course, is being revealed in the most current poll from New York Times Sienna. By no means a right-wing bastion, okay? We've been quoting Rasmussen, Trafalgar, and many other sources that some people would consider right-leaning. But here we have the New York Times of all places saying that Donald Trump is now ahead of Kamala Harris 48-47 going into the debates. This is truly a tremendous shift by the leftist media pollsters, okay? They have to reveal, as I've been saying on this channel, the truth the closer we get to the actual election. Otherwise, they risk losing all of their credibility. And the New York Times, via Sienna polling, is being forced to reveal that Kamala Harris is not popular, and therefore neither are her far leftist stances. Folks are preferring Donald Trump. And don't forget, Donald Trump always underperforms in these polls by as much as 5 to 8%. And keep that in mind as we're listening to this next segment from Harry Enten over on CNN, breaking down the polling numbers.
I just want to sort of zone out a little bit, go to 35,000 feet, and just point out how close this race has been consistently close. All right, campaigns where any candidate led by at least 5 points in the polls. Look, most of the time there's at least some stretch where one of the candidates is ahead by at least 5 points. At least 3 weeks in which one candidate led by at least 5 points. That happened in every single campaign from 1964 to 2020. How many days? Have we had this campaign where one candidate was ahead by at least 5 points nationally? Look at this. 0 days. 0 days. The fact is this race has been consistently tight in a way that we have never seen before, Mr. Berman.
This is always versus never.
Correct.
That's the difference between this campaign and every other campaign we've seen for the last 75 years or so. All right, the battleground polls that we're looking at. Give us some perspective on how close they are.
Sometimes we look at these 7 close states and, you see all these numbers that are up there and you go, I can't make heads or tails of it. So I just want to sort of combine them and look at the Democrat versus Donald Trump in those 7 closest battleground states. Look at the 2020 final margin and average across these 7 states. It was Biden plus 0.9 points. You don't think that could get any closer? We can, in fact, get closer. Look right now, Kamala Harris up, but get this, by just 0.6 points on average. But let's just say we move the current polls and let's say the result differs by them by a single percentage point and Donald Trump is the beneficiary of it. Look at this. If Trump outperforms his current polls by just a single point, you take that Kamala Harris win and look at this. Donald Trump gets 287 electoral votes because the bottom line is Pennsylvania would flip up here and you would also get this flip out in Nevada over here. And that, my friends, is what we're talking about. We are talking about the closest campaign in a generation where a single point could make all the difference in the world.
So, of course, the Democrats are in a complete panic because now their whole narrative is crumbling around them. They realize they replaced Joe Biden with the wrong person. And who would have thought that replacing a very unpopular candidate with the most unpopular candidate wouldn't be a good choice? Now, of course, this has led to a very interesting piece over here from the Daily Mail. Kamala Harris camp is nervous about Trump ahead of the debate as campaign stalls, and I'm hearing quite a lot of concern. Just want to read a little bit of this article. Kamala Harris's team is getting nervous ahead of her showdown with Donald Trump, according to sources close to her campaign. Insiders, including a campaign strategist, reportedly told BBC U.S. Special Correspondent Katie Kay of their concerns in a series of frantic texts and phone calls. I'm picking up quite a lot of nervousness, by the way, on the state of the race, Kay said during an episode of the Rest is Politics U.S. podcast. I'm getting a lot of Democrats texting me. I had a long call yesterday with a strategist, and I can fill you in on a bit more, but I'm getting a lot of nervousness from some Democrats. So in light of all this panic, the Democrats, of course, have to come up with a new line of attack. And this has been floating around recently. It's the fact that, Donald Trump is now mentally deficient.
We are 48 hours from the first debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And while Harris and her team have been preparing, Trump's incoherence has only gotten worse by the day. And that is not a good sign for Tuesday.
They're going to say if Leon's going to send up a rocket. Can you imagine you're a parent and your son leaves the house and you say, Jimmy, I love you so much. Go have a good day in school. And your son comes back with a brutal operation. You take a look at bacon and some of these products, and some people don't eat bacon anymore. This was caused by their horrible energy wind.
Trump's ramblings have gotten so tiresome and so meandering that it's no surprise his own supporters are literally leaving his rallies early. It is clear at this point that Trump, who has long prided himself as a showman, is losing the room.
Okay, so a couple of out-of-context clips of Donald Trump at his rallies or interviews where he talks for hours and may flub a little word or two, and that, of course, is sign of his mental decline. This is truly an amazing line of attack from the left, and like everything else from the left, it is completely unoriginal. So all of this is coming together quite nicely, I must say, right before the big debate. And there's a lot riding on it. Kamala Harris has to be, of course, revealed for what she actually is, and Donald Trump has to be the one to call her out on all of her garbage. So as usual, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.